All right, let's welcome everybody out today to episode 52 of Utah in the Weeds. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing good, Chris. I'm excited for episode 52 and this conversation with these two guys with some military background, right?
Yeah, Josh and Derrick from Utah Hemp Growers and Uinta Cannabis. They got a fantastic story of kind of how, they started growing hemp and how it kind of evolved into this business selling, other Utah hemp farmers hemp, basically, to people here in Utah.
Created a marketplace because there really wasn't one for their products. And a good discussion about the intricacies, again, of this getting into the hemp growing space and what you have to do to sell like smokable flower in Utah and some of those technicalities. I thought the biggest takeaway for me, Chris, with this interview was that sometimes more regulation is better.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because there's a clear pathway to your business model and to getting people the products that they need.
Yeah, no, I think our listeners are going to love this conversation. I was actually really excited after we finished recording. I'm like, I can't wait to get this up for everybody to listen to. So make sure you stick around for the whole conversation. We're going to get into that here in just a minute. UtahMarijuana.org/podcast is where you can listen to all the podcast episodes. Make sure you're sharing them with your family and friends, because that's how we get the word out about the podcast. Is there anything going on, anything new with you, Tim, going on that you need to share with our listeners?
Here we come up. This will be the first episode in April, and 420 is going to come up. We have Earth Day. We'll be announcing some service that we want to do through UtahMarijuana.org in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for the next episodes on that. Yeah, this is just an exciting month. It's the celebratory month.
Yeah, 420, baby.
Right?
We finally got a 420 that we can celebrate, and hopefully, I want to have some good episodes this month. Well, we got good episodes every week, so make sure to subscribe in whatever podcast app you listen to. We got a brand new episode every week, 4:20 a.m. on Friday. Let's get into that episode with Josh and Derrick from Uinta Cannabis and Utah Hemp Growers.
All right, enjoy, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Good job. Yeah, here we are with Josh and Derrick. How'd you guys meet?
I had the idea for getting a grow started for quite some time, and I had gone through quite a few people with the idea saying, hey, I'm thinking about starting up a cannabis grow. And most people were kind of under that assumption of just like, oh yeah, you want to grow free weed, whatever.
Right, of course.
And so
it's popular. Like, when are you having these conversations?
I had approached some family and friends with like a legitimate business plan saying, hey, I want to get this going. And there was the initial excitement, and then it would fizzle out into nothing.
Right.
And so,
wow, this is so great. We want to grow cannabis.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, but this is a serious business. We're going to be farmers. It's work every day. And so approaching people, it would just, like I said, just fizzle out. And, I actually approached Derrick about it just in passing conversation at our little disc golf group, and he actually showed interest, and so we got to talking about it, and then we thought up a business plan and started drafting up ideas and started raising capital and just went from there.
Wow.
How did the two of you even meet?
Through common friends.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, through a kind of a disc golf crew.
Disc golf, and that's one of those things I need to learn how to.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I hear from everybody about how much fun that game is, and I've never played.
It is a fun game, and there is nowhere you have to pay for it.
No,
right?
It's free.
It's free everywhere you play.
Yeah,
there's a cool course in West Bountiful that I've played at. There used to be a course up at the University of Utah, but I think they've taken most of it down.
Yeah, that was a free course. Yeah, I think they took a good portion of it down. I play mainly at Creekside, so it's free. Okay. It's beautiful. It's like one of the first 50 courses in the entire country. It's great. I think
you just show up and throw discs.
Yeah,
that's my experience.
Yeah,
right?
You can show up and start on hole 4, and play through hole 9 and walk out. So yeah.
It's okay. Well,
I still suck at it.
Yeah, well.
So what came first, Uinta Cannabis or Utah Hemp Growers? I would imagine Uinta Cannabis came first.
Uinta Cannabis
right?
came first.
Yeah.
That was thought up beginning of 2019, and we got serious about it early fall.
Okay.
raise the capital that we needed from some friends and family, and our life savings, both of just all the money that we had. And so we filed for the permits. And
was it tough to file for all that? I mean, were there obstacles? I mean, this is Utah we're talking about here.
Wow. The biggest obstacle by far was that the law required us to have a location locked in before we could file for our grow license, which kind of sucked.
So you had to have a lease signed. You had to sign a lease almost, get into debt, and not
Before
even
you
be
even-
guaranteed.
before we could get a grow license.
Yeah, how does the landlord look at that? He's like, you sign a lease, you're hooked.
Yeah.
Whether
So-
you get a permit or not.
Yeah,
You're gonna grow,
exactly. We
right?
went
You're going to grow
through-
potatoes. You're going to grow cannabis.
Yeah.
We
One or
went
the
through
other.
about 15 different locations.
Whoa.
People not calling us back.
Flat out
or
saying no.
Stringing us along. The second that you mentioned cannabis, they're just like, nope, we want nothing to do with that.
thank you.
And we
What year is this that you're having
2019.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so recent.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is during the time when, and we've talked to quite a few guests about this, the time when CBD oil and biomass is still profitable.
Yeah, 1 acre was like $150,000.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah.
You're right at
Green
the
rush.
end. I mean, you're getting into the business right before it just.
Well, I saw the
Crushes
writing
you.
on the wall that everyone's going to jump in. People are going to jump in that have never touched cannabis, and the
Or never
market's
been
going to
farmers.
or never been farmers, and it's going to inflate it and crash it. And look what happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What are you thinking about all this, Derek? When all this is like going on, like what's going through your mind? Not the crash, the ramp up into it. We'll get to that.
Oh, the ramp up into the business?
Yeah.
Oh, I was all for it. I was coming from a little bit different perspective of Josh. Josh has the plant biology background under his belt, where I had more of the medical side. I came through my process of being a personal trainer and a CrossFit coach, and then going to physical therapy assistant school, getting a degree, exercise science, business management. So that's where I came from, is seeing people who were utilizing either THC or CBD as a health and wellness mechanism. And then I got to see the dichotomy of people using opiates, and I don't think I have to go into the opiate crisis that Utah is going through. So I saw what those were doing for people, and then right around that same time, Josh comes with this idea, and it was just kind of an easy transition for me.
So 15 locations and you get one.
we finally got one. We have to be completely transparent from the get-go. You can't
Right,
say
yeah.
we plan on growing plants and then let them find out it's cannabis later. So
Right.
we finally found a landlord that was willing to work with us, locked in the lease, applied for the licenses, got the licenses, and then started the process of getting our business license. And our first crop went in end of 2019, and we were like, let's do this. It's great. The only thing that can shut us down is if the world were to stop. And that'll never happen, right?
Right. I mean, that'll never.
Something happened in 2020 that shut the
so
world down.
2020 hits, and
Yeah, this is 2019.
Now, did you end up getting a place here in Salt Lake? Or, I mean, obviously I don't need to know the exact location, but what area are you in, kind of? Because we've chatted with people in Logan, Sandy. I was just kind of curious what about you're at.
yeah, we're in South Salt Lake, a little, about
Okay.
1,800 square foot warehouse.
Okay, indoor grow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everything's indoor.
Everything's
Yeah.
indoor.
Why do you want to do indoor? Was that a choice?
Yeah, I prefer indoor hydroponic or aeroponic just because of the level of control that you have over the plants. Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder to do, and you have a much smaller window than using soil, but you have a much higher level of control in like your nutrient uptake and your water uptake and your lights and everything.
Right. You can control the spectrum of light,
Yep.
the timing of the light.
Yep.
We've been to some of the medical grows, and they control everything.
Yeah,
All
I
those
basically
indoor grows.
used everything that I had learned growing THC and just translated it directly over to hemp.
Where'd you learn that?
I spent a year up in Oregon supervising my own grow and making every mistake you can make, like powdery mildew, mites, fungus gnats, everything, like too much humidity. But I needed that in order to learn what to do and what not to do.
We were just talking about Oregon before you
know
guys
we
got here.
were.
The prices of some marijuana up there.
Yeah,
An
the
ounce
prices
for,
of
like, what,
product.
60 bucks for an ounce?
Grand opening prices, $60 for an ounce, $60 for a top shelf half ounce. I mean,
Wouldn't you
it
like those
seems
prices to be here?
Yeah, right.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, alternatively, though, you don't, right? Because you're in business, and
Yeah.
like Bob Waters said, revenue is fuel.
True.
True. There is a way though to be profitable at those prices.
Yeah.
Still. And I mean I don't know, the total acreage that they said that's needed to supply the entire United States with THC flower is like less than 100 acres or something.
Yeah, just
Really?
because the plants grow so well, they don't require as much water. Because you have an indoor grow, all of your products then, or all of your grow is really based on not biomass per se. It's on flower
Yeah.
and what you can extract from the flower.
Well, we're not doing any kind of extract. We hit up Mountain Valley Botanicals. I call him up and I said, I need to get some flower extracted. And he was like, okay, how many pounds are you working with? And I was like, 10. And he's like, oh yeah, our minimum size is like 1,000 pounds. I'm like, okay.
So we're
Never mind.
So really, you focused in. I'm looking at your website, and you focused then a lot on raw flower.
Yep.
But you weren't able to sell raw flower up until now. How does that work in Utah?
So we started Uinta Cannabis to sell flower and flower products to customers. And then UDAF acts that with the registration law, basically saying products need to be registered in the state of Utah, but we will not register any flower or food additive products, which killed our business plan. And so we went to the drawing board thinking, what are we going to do? Is this the end? We've been in business for less than a year. And
You've sunk all your money and everybody you're close to's money
yeah.
into this thing.
Yeah. We had tried approaching the pharmacies, but before the law changes, there was already enough red tape that it was a little bit cost prohibitive. And now since the law changes, it's just like almost impossible to get it into the pharmacies. And so we thought, what do we do? And we came up with the idea of starting up a marketplace, a true marketplace for farms in Utah to get their flower and flower products out to the rest of the nation. Well, we couldn't start a company in Utah, so we started a company in Nevada, completely 100% separate from Uinta Cannabis, to act as a true marketplace. And from the beginning, we're the only farm that's listed on it. And we were thinking maybe summer of 2021, one, maybe two farms will approach us and say, hey, we're interested in getting on your marketplace, and what can we do? Within the first week of going live mid-December, we had 3 farms reach out to us.
Wow.
Saying, hey, we need to meet.
3 farms from where? From Utah?
From
Yeah,
Utah.
we only carry products
wow.
from Utah
Yeah.
farms.
What
So
specializes in
everything is
that.
grown in Utah.
And you realize
This is for
quickly,
Utah Hemp Growers.
Yeah.
Correct.
.com, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
right? This is how Utah Hemp Growers got started.
Yep.
That's a Nevada company.
Yes.
That is a marketplace for basically Utah hemp products
Yep.
to be sold around the nation, but almost like a co-op.
Not really. I mean, there's set
Or do they just
boundaries
come?
established.
They just come and say, "Hey, look, we want to sell our products. We want you to help us
Yeah,
network and
Yep.
get these accounts set up and like find places where we can sell our stuff."
And
Well,
if
we just open it up to the nationwide marketplace, and
everybody can buy, even Utah.
Everybody.
Even
Exactly.
Utah
Yes.
people
Yeah.
can buy.
Because
Utah,
you're out of
yeah.
Nevada, so you can
And-
buy it back
Yeah,
to
that was
Utah.
kind of our main focus, is to be able to get flower here.
well, and one of the biggest risks in the hemp market is because so much of it is online. You're having to take a risk as a customer of buying from a company that is brand new, that you've never heard of, and that you've never met. And so, from a farmer's perspective, what's better than being able to sell what you've grown to your community and show?
Well, of course.
This
I
is
mean,
what I
that's the
have.
whole point. We talked last week about this to Margie up in Cache County.
The hemp folk.
Yeah, the hemp folk, where this people want to buy tomatoes from the local farmer.
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
going to want to buy eventually, right?
Some local CBG.
Some local CBG, right? Some local hemp flower.
Yeah, support local.
Yeah, right.
Keeps the money in
Yeah.
the state, too.
That's right. But
So-
you've had to go out of state to get it back in.
Yes.
A story we've heard three, 4 times now.
I mean, was that tough to set up? I mean, were there hoops that you had to jump through for that?
It's been a minefield of regulation. Just tiptoeing and finding out
Even though it's in
how to do it
Nevada, even though
right.
Nevada's full legal for everything.
Yeah.
Really. So there probably wasn't a lot of laws for Nevada that you had to jump through.
Yeah, but well, the big sacrifice is we package and fulfill all of our shipments in Nevada. And so there have been weeks where we will get one order and it's a $20 order. And we wait a day, maybe 2 days to see if more will come in. And then we just have to bite the bullet, drive out to Nevada, fulfill the order, and get it shipped.
Oh, so you have to do everything in Nevada. You can't do it here in Utah.
Nope.
Because it has to be postmarked.
Yep.
That's the key, right? You can't hide.
Yeah.
Because the postmark. If that person was at UDAF and he made the order and it was postmarked here, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay,
now,
so
there's
wow,
people
this is
doing
so
it like that here, but we're
fun
just
to
not
learn
gonna,
about.
we don't delve into that.
People don't realize the obstacles that these guys are jumping through and the you know how much extra work they're doing for really little pay, if you ask my opinion.
I totally agree. And I think also that every time we talk to another hemp grower, we talk to another person in the cannabis marketplace that is not specifically not in the medical side. The hoops that you have to jump through, you have to find the hoop. You have to find a way to jump through the hoop. No one is there to help you. The regulations are not clear. Every state is different. Whereas with the medical program, it does seem like those rules are set. It costs a lot of money to get in. You're going to have a big infrastructure to do those things that you have to comply, right? To follow those compliance rules. And even though it seems it's hard to get into the medical side, it does seem more straightforward.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
The rules for the Utah hemp industry are unclear.
Are
pretty
they that
undefined.
way, do you think, nationwide, or is Utah unique there? Because I've also heard that Utah's hemp laws are some of the best or most progressive, or the marketplace is growing better. Is that just marketing?
I would say it's just marketing. I mean, most of the country is going off of USDA laws, and with this recent change allowing flower on the shelves, it may look like a step forward, but the current writing with 0.3% total THC post-harvest means that your Delta 9 levels need to be 0.03 because you have to account for the other cannabinoids to stay under that 0.3.
Okay, so let's talk about the new law changes a little bit, and let's dig into this. Okay, we're pretty clear on 0.3% or less of THC in any flower. So the law change, explain what the law changed in Utah with flower, with hemp flower or CBD flower.
So it allowed for hemp flower and hemp flower products to be sold in brick and mortar in person. But it changed the wording to 0.3% total THC with a post-harvest COA that has to be full panel as well. And then you have
So it includes Delta 10, Delta 9, Delta 8.
everything.
All of the
cannabis.
deltas.
Yeah, all of them.
And that total
In
number
that
needs to be
THC.
0.3 or lower.
Okay.
And this is after harvest when the plant is more likely to spike in its cannabinoid levels.
Wow.
So USDA rules are 0.3 Delta 9 pre-harvest,
right.
before the plant has a chance to spike, and you're only measuring one cannabinoid. Utah is all the cannabinoids post-harvest, and that number needs to be below 0.3.
All the tetrahydrocannabinol post-harvest, not the CBD, CBG, CBN. All the tetrahydrocannabinol,
Yes.
which is a lot of deltas.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this is specific because in other states, they've had Delta 8. This came up, I think, tell me if I'm wrong. Delta 8 has been manipulated in other markets to like sell something that'll kind of get you high,
Yeah, and
right?
for Utah hemp growers, we believe that that's an imperfect practice. So we have it stated on our website, we will not carry any of that sprayed flower because that Delta 8 extract, it can be extracted or it can be synthesized. You have no idea where it's coming from. And you don't know, unless you have a reliable full panel COA, you don't know the amount of solvents that are still in that. And so what we're seeing is there's a lot of people that are, I mean, just straight with a paint sprayer. They just spray down the buds with this Delta 8 solution and then try and move it out the door to give you kind of an extra kick. Wow. It's kind of weird. It seems like the new spice hype.
It's so I had a patient recently that talked about the difference between Delta 8 and Delta 9 from an experience standpoint, because there's not a lot of research in the uptake of Delta 8 in the body. It does seem to be a peripheral uptake, more not a brain uptake as much. And he described he smoked a half a gram of Delta 8 concentrate, and he just described it as this almost tingly, numbing type feeling throughout his limbs, right? A much more peripheral experience where he didn't have that psychoactivity, but it was, but it still had a significant effect, right?
Yeah.
And that Delta 8 seemed to be like the reason they changed the rules and the language in the law for the hemp side.
Yeah. It's a big factor in what
But it makes it really hard for you guys to take total THC and keep it under 0.3.
Yeah, nearly impossible.
Really?
Yeah.
What happens if your flower's 0.35 or beyond there's some sort of buffer?
Yeah, there's the 15% buffer, so you can go to 0.35 and still be able
technically legal
to put it on the market.
But what happens if it's 0.4?
0.4, you're allowed to remediate it into oil or destroy it without penalty. And if you go above 1%, then they just notify law enforcement.
And then law enforcement comes and arrests you.
Yeah.
Then the black Suburbans show up. Oh
even though you didn't try to, I mean, you grew hemp, but then I mean, what are the chances of it being?
Yeah. How often do you get what do you call it? A hot crop?
A hot crop. Going over 1% is pretty hard.
Okay. That's what I was like. How hard is that? That might be kind of scary.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can see why they wrote that, but it is pretty intimidating.
Yeah. No kidding. No kidding.
I mean, is there a way for you guys to test it before they come and test it?
So we have a pre-harvest test that we pass.
Okay.
So that's performed by the state. And then we have a certain window, and then we have to do a post-harvest test.
Well, I'm just wondering, so you guys can keep an eye on and make sure you're not getting too hot.
Yeah, I mean, and growing the same strain over and over again, we know where it's going to be and when it's going to, if and when it won't be compliant. And so there was one strain that we grew first that wasn't compliant, and we got rid of it because it wasn't even compliant when they came in pre-harvest.
Oh, right. So you're like, this is not going to work out. It's just too hard. There's plenty of other strains. How many strains do you get to choose from before you grow? Are there plenty of options?
Oh, there's tons of options.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's going to be quality in the end, but there's tons of options out there.
And do you buy seeds or clones?
Well, we start with seed, and then if it turns out to be a phenotype that we like, then we'll go off of clone. Off of just that one phenotype, just for control.
Yeah, like we've had 3 strains that we just pushed out that we didn't like how any of them turned out as far as weight. I mean, we haven't had a chance to partake upon them yet, but just the way that they're growing and stuff, they're just not really probably what we're going to continue with. So we're not stuck on any strains, but we do have like our flagship, our Blue Mint. It's a cross strain of Charlotte's Web and a Harlessu that's just phenomenal. You can't get it anywhere else.
Do you, is the cannabinoid content, like, do you look for mixes of certain types of cannabinoids, like the Blue Mint? Describe that, like, what's the cannabinoid content in something like that?
Our CBD in that runs anywhere between like 13 and 15%, but we're not chasing any specific cannabinoid, and we're not chasing a terpene profile. We just try the flower. We give it out for samples for professional reviews and get feedback. And there are some strains out there that we've sampled that are 25, 28% CBD that just don't cut it. So we're not chasing any kind of specific profile.
You're chasing the experience.
Yeah. Does it have a good experience? Does it have good effects?
Yeah.
Good smell, good look.
Yeah. And you're hitting on a point here where the entourage effect of an interesting profile based on the person that it consumes it, the way it's consumed, and that sort of thing can change, even regardless of the content. I think there is too much put on, for example, the percentage of THC in a flower, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and we talk about this all the time.
Every episode, it seems like, right?
Yeah, how the THC content, the percentage doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? There's been good studies that compare 15% THC to 25%. And that the reporting is that you just get just as high.
Yeah.
Right? Or the experience is just as psychoactive. So I like that approach. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the education needs to just catch up and be spread more and more. And I think that it'll catch on over the next few years, hopefully, that people stop chasing individual cannabinoids. Just because it's 33% THC doesn't mean that it's the flower that's right for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So now how, with the law change, though, and you've got good product and it meets all the requirements, now can I go to your shop and buy it?
Well, website? Because we don't have any physical locations.
Okay.
Well, can we go on your website and get it shipped directly from Utah to Utah? So you don't have to go to Nevada and ship it to me now.
Well, no, now we still have to drive to Nevada and fulfill it, but we can have it shipped right to your door.
Yeah.
Okay, but how did the law change to allow smokable flower to be sold in Utah?
If it's being sold in Utah, if the transaction is taking place in Utah, then that product must be 0.3% total THC or less, have a full panel lab post-harvest, and be registered with the state, which I think is like $350 per product.
And that's every time you harvest, probably.
Yes. You must also, if you are going to fulfill that yourself, you have to have your cultivation license and a processing license now.
For hemp.
For hemp.
But you can still drive to Nevada and ship it back into Utah without following that part.
Well, because we're a Nevada company operating under Nevada laws.
Oh, my
under
lordy.
USDA
So even
law.
with this new law, it doesn't even matter.
So do you feel like the law is a benefit, or is it a step in the right direction, or does it just create a different set of issues?
It's a different set of issues because it's going to open up the floodgates for low-grade flower on Utah shelves.
Because people are going to stay under that percentage.
Yeah, people are going to get their first hemp experience buying, let's say, a pre-roll in a store, and it's going to be a less than ideal experience.
Because the company that makes that pre-roll or sells that flower is probably going to be a company that just grows in bulk and is there to make the profits, and they just want to sell a product on the shelf. But they have enough money to jump through those new hoops.
And staying compliant with that 0.3 total THC, that flower is going to have very, very low levels of all cannabinoids.
Again, we have got to get to a point where we can have a range of 0 THC all the way up to 30, whatever percent there is now, and find ways to allow people to make these choices with their, in my opinion, medical provider who can help make these choices on, hey, you know what? You don't want to get stoned out of your mind, but you need something that's like 1 or 2% THC, right? Because there's none of that on the market.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't exist.
It's either high CBD or high
it's
THC.
12 plus, 12 is way low THC, or it's 0.3% and less.
Yeah, we're getting really good feedback, though, on people that are mixing on a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay, so talk about that with regard to your products. Like, what's the process of using these products, and how best do we use them? Teach me. Teach me how to incorporate hemp flower, non-psychoactive, essentially, of cannabis flower into my regimen.
Well, I should say it is psychoactive. It's non-intoxicating.
Got it.
So
okay, you're of the school that, like when I say, well, CBD is not psychoactive, and you're like, well, actually, if you go to the definition of psychoactivity, then yes, it is, because it's calming.
People will feel an effect.
You feel an effect.
But you will not be intoxicated to where you're, couch lock.
Totally
or
fair
Yeah,
enough.
it takes off like that top
Cannabis,
heaviness.
marijuana, cannabis.
Right. You can use it during the day for some strains, for a lot of hemp strains, to help with anxiety, inflammation, energy. Mixing it, people like to say that CBD nullifies THC. It does not nullify it. It works alongside it. to help balance it out to where you're not getting that spiral effect from ingesting too much THC, and now you need to lay down because the world is spinning around you. It helps to balance that out to where you can have a nice psychoactive effect from the THC without going down that spiral.
You're building your own 3% product or 5% product, essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. From a physical standpoint, when you're talking about like training, and you had talked about your coaching, Derrick, before, I mean, do you see that more and more people in the, like in your old world, the CrossFit world, the people who are really into their health are moving this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. People are sick of all the fillers in all the medicine. They're sick of balms not really working, whereas, we have a salve that's actually like healing people. They're not having to kind of rely on it for a daily thing. They're using it for like a week and their injury is fixed.
Yeah, we're careful not to make any medical claims. And so all of this feedback is just, it's coming unsolicited from customers that just send back feedback saying, this helped me. We've had feedback from people with epilepsy saying, this is changing my quality of life. This flower is changing my quality of life. And, we're not putting out, this will fix your epilepsy. We're not saying that. We just say, here's a product that has passed our standards for quality, and we're putting it out there because of its medicinal benefits. Use it as you see fit. And then we get the feedback of people saying, this is changing my life for the better.
Oh, that's cool. Do you want to get into the medical side?
Eventually, yeah, that'd be great.
Right?
When a license opens up, I guess, huh?
And we have the working capital.
A lot of money, a lot investing.
But at least you'll have the experience now, right? And you'll kind of already have your foot in the door.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and how many square feet your grow?
We have a total of about 1,750 square feet, and we're using a third of it. But
really?
We're working on filling up the rest of it, so we're really small.
Yeah. Yeah, but as far as that goes, though, I mean, it gives you a really good opportunity to learn, grow, get established, and then, I mean, heck, there will be more.
Oh, there'll
be more medical here eventually. They'll need more. They'll need more different types of people. And Utah's interesting, when you look at like beer sales or beer, like the breweries, for a long time, it didn't seem like Utah was a good place to buy beer.
But it's one of the best.
But it's one of the best now.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we win all kinds of awards, and even the low alcohol content of the beer almost made people work harder to make better beer.
Yeah, better
and
tasting.
that craft product could translate into cannabis.
Exactly.
In Utah, we seem to be that type of
cannabis
group,
here, right?
And have some craft cannabis groups.
Yeah, we
with
see
small grows, and
there's always going to be a market for that small craft cannabis grow.
yeah.
So a couple of weeks ago, we were talking to Margie from the Hemp Folk, and she was talking about some interesting stories of mailing hemp. Have you guys run into any interesting situations as far as hemp not getting to people or anything? She was telling us
Oh my gosh,
she lost $25,000 from one.
Yeah. Well,
the post office just kept opening up her packages.
I wonder if she was writing her business name on there.
The smell? I guess it was smell.
We haven't had any issues with smell. The bags that we use are reliable, and we're actually phasing them out to get the child-proof bags. It'll be more expensive, but we're staying compliant with how Utah has written the laws. So we changed up our labeling to be compliant, and now we're changing up the packages, even though I would say maybe 5% of our orders actually go to Utah. The rest of them go to the rest of the states. But we've had no issues with the packaging. I actually, when I sent out my first package, I had written Utah Hemp Growers on the return address.
And you're like, that's a bad idea.
Well, the lady at the post office was like, you should probably not do that.
Yeah.
Just giving you some advice. And so it really is just avoiding those things that say CBD, hemp, cannabis, anything on the packaging that advertises it, because then all it takes is one curious set of eyes to pry open your package, and now it's delayed. It never arrives. You lose your money.
Just you can put Try to think of something.
Yeah. Well,
BYU
I mean, it's the same
or
thing
something.
with us, right? And at Utah Therapeutic Health Center, our logo is the state with a cannabis leaf in it, and we have a logo without the leaf, because there are documents that we need to send that don't need that type of scrutiny, right? And it is a part of this business.
It's sad though that it has to be that way.
Yeah, I think that it's changing a little, but certainly you don't want to go to the bank with that logo, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have a name that the bank knows what you do, but the bank needs to check their boxes and dot their I's and cross their T's, and they need their applications to flow through.
But do you remember? I remember, like back in the '90s. It seemed like it was the '90s that like friends would wear like pot shirts, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you're just asking to get targeted
sure.
there." Now people wear it, and it's like it's okay,
It is true. Now this
So it
morning
just
we
goes to
had this
show.
conversation at my house because we have some T-shirts that
That
are
have pot leaves on?
healthcare to buzz about, right?
Yeah.
And they have the THC molecule on them and a couple of bees. And they're super cool T-shirts. I really like them. And then on the back, it's classy on the front, and then on the back it says UtahMarijuana.org. And my son, who's in 6th grade, he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, it's St. Patrick's Day. I don't have anything green. What do you think, Dad?" And he laughs. He just chuckles. He's like, "Yeah, they'd kick me out."
No, but I mean, there was a time when you couldn't wear it; you'd be targeted.
Yeah. Well, the Utah in the Weeds sweatshirts,
Yeah.
right? We wear those around all the time.
Yeah, and you couldn't wear, like 20,
way.
30 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, there's no way.
But so things are changing.
The one kid with the weed hoodie in high school, and everyone looks at him like, we know.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, we know." Yep.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, yeah, you're just a supporter.
Right. Oh, yeah, sure, you're an advocate.
That was actually my first experience with cannabis is back in high school. I actually tried growing it.
You did?
Yeah.
Did it fail or did you success?
Oh, I thought I was like on top of the world, and I was acting so stealthy, and I had 3 little plants in solo cups under my computer desk. And of course, I got caught like almost immediately.
By your parents?
By my parents.
Okay.
I called down to the principal's office, and the school officer is sitting there with the vice principal. And this actually started like my path into cannabis, because she asked me, she was like, why were you growing? And I told her, my friends smoke. And so I figured I would just grow it, and they're spending all this money on it. That way they don't have to spend money on it, and I'll be the favorite friend of the group. And she looked at me and she was like, "Do you want to kill your friends?"
Oh my gosh.
And I was shocked because I didn't know anything about it. So I just looked at her and I was like, "Of course not. Like, what did I do?" And so I caught a suspension for that. And when I got back, I went to the school library and checked out every single book on cannabis that I could find.
Oh, wow.
And just started reading.
Were there a lot?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And people were like, like my classmates were like, "Can you be reading that?" And I'm like, "I assume." I checked it out.
I checked it out from the library.
Yeah. And I just started reading on the history and everything, and was like, she lied to me.
Then you go into the military. Both of you have military backgrounds, yeah?
Yep.
You're Air Force, Josh?
Yes.
Derrick?
Navy. I was almost 7 years intelligence.
Well, wow.
I was a communicator. So I did satellite communications, radio, comms, point-to-point, network security, things of that nature.
It's pretty cool. Have you guys seen the new Army ad, the commercial, where it looks like a game? And they've got the communicator, they've got the warrior, right?
I've seen that, yeah.
The fighter,
Yeah.
they've got the replenisher, and the chef slices something like the Kung Fu Panda game. And then, it's pretty cool, but they've definitely changed their approach of recruiting to a younger generation.
Yeah. I'm sure the military
video
hasn't
games.
changed. Sweeping water in a rainstorm.
Oh, that's the worst.
yeah.
Sweeping water on a ship out in the middle of the ocean.
Did you have to
Really?
do that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I did 2 deployments on a ship, and then one actually where I was boots on ground in Baghdad. And so I got to see the silliness of a shipboard deployment and then what it's like being attached to detainee operations at a joint task force.
Wow.
Interesting. And in the military, did you have any exposure to cannabis in the military?
Nope, just keeping up with the news and everything. Like seeing the news in 2012 with Colorado legalizing and being like, "Oh, great, I can do nothing about it."
I can watch it from the news.
Yeah, I was
The
listening-
military kind of frowns on cannabis, right?
Yeah, I was stationed in Colorado Springs when right around the time when that all went legalized. So,
But you can't partake in Colorado
No.
Springs,
No.
even though it's legal,
No, sir.
because you're federal.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think-
Actively engaged in like receiving funds from the federal government other than being a veteran. If you're a veteran, you can't lose your benefits for using state regulated medical cannabis. But if you're active duty, work for the FBI, work for anybody, you can't touch it. In fact,
No,
I mean,
don't.
we have friends in the State Department that they don't even follow us on Facebook or
No kidding.
and they're close friends. They just can't have that sort of stuff coming
Yeah.
up on their feed. And I mean, she doesn't even email me.
Even hemp
Yeah.
and CBD, you can't even. Could you use hemp or CBD products like in the
No.
military today? Could
Anything
they?
cannabis.
Really?
Yeah.
Like even just go to the gas station and get some CBD tincture. They can't
Absolutely
even use that.
not.
No.
Yeah, I've had guys that work up on base and are even scared of a zero THC CBD product just
Yeah.
because they just don't want to take any chances.
Yeah. There's zero
Now-
tolerance.
So even last night though, I was reading some studies on PTSD and cannabis treatment, and the Canadian government almost takes the opposite approach. So the only people
Did I?
the only
lucky.
people in Canada that get free federally covered cannabis as medicine that's covered under their national health care are military veterans.
Yep.
Move up there, and if you're a veteran of the Canadian military, you're
give you-
covered. You can go into the dispensary, and they will buy your cannabis for you.
Yeah. And they can grow beards, which is awesome.
They can grow
That's
beards.
great.
Yeah, it's just such a different approach,
Yeah.
and we're right across the border.
Yeah. And active duty, as long as it's not directly interfering with your work, you can consume all the alcohol you want.
Oh, really?
Wow. They'll change here
Oh, yeah.
in the U.S. I think maybe the U.S. will eventually get a little more on board with their military.
Yeah, I would think so.
10 years, 20 years, maybe.
I don't know however long it takes. I mean, there's the alternatives. This is the thing that I was researching, is really the alternatives between cannabis and other medications. And that's really where it comes down to, is the companies that make benzos and opioids, they don't want us to stop prescribing those. And so they don't want to do any research on comparative, does CBD or does smoking hemp flower help you reduce other prescription use? That's what we need to start. That's the research that's not been done yet.
I think they've done it in Colorado, several studies that has shown a year-by-year decrease in prescription opioid use
Yep.
since legalization.
There is definitely an association with, or a correlation with decreased prescribing of opioids and benzos too. So you have the balm. So you have some type of products. Some products are processed. Not a lot of products.
We took just a shot with our balm, just like, let's make a tiny little batch and see what happens. And so the feedback has been great. So the next step is we got our processing license, we start adding more lights, and we just keep going.
Okay, so you got to grow more. You got to process.
Yep.
So you got to move to the next step.
Yep.
Yeah. Proof of concept is kind of what we were going for, instead of just rushing into it and having all kinds of product or debt that we can't fulfill. So, we have our proof of concept down. We have our kind of our flagship strain. So we're kind of ready to rock and roll.
Is it just the two of you? Do you have like employees, like other people trimming or anything, or just
Nope,
the two of
it's
you?
just the two of us running both companies.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
cool.
Yep.
And is the marketplace growing?
Yes. The marketplace for high quality hemp flower. Now there's a lot of average and low quality flower out there, since everyone jumped on it, grew 10, 20, 50, 100 acres, and now they're sitting on it and they don't know what to do with it. And so finding that the high quality flower is a challenge, but we're taking it on.
How do you guys market?
That's tricky.
Like this, word of mouth.
Yeah.
We have-
Just getting our name out there.
We have no SEO, so we can't do any kind of online advertising. We have to be careful with any kind of ads that we do put out. We were lucky enough to get a full page ad in the Salt Lake City magazine, their
That's
first
right.
one.
Yeah,
Page 6
you guys.
or so.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys are right by us.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, there's a promo code in there if people want to get their hands on it and check that out. We want people to go out and get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
and check it out.
So use that promo code on
Yeah,
Salt
cool.
Lake City.
15% off, little nugget in there for anyone who wants to go and look.
Yeah, and you can pick up those magazines at any of the pharmacies. You can pick them up at any of my locations, my clinic locations, Utah Therapeutic Health Center. Yeah, they're free. It's a free magazine. Salt Lake City. Our ad, Utah in the Weeds, is in there.
Yeah.
You guys have stuff in there. They focused on a lot of really cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a
publication.
beautiful layout, and it describes a lot of the process of over the course of the year and the people who are really involved in that.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, the guy who published it is an incredible guy.
Cool,
who,
yeah.
he really
Yeah.
wants to progress the community, and we're happy to, be at his side. So it's really great.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody, like, let's say, I've asked this of a few people that come on the podcast, somebody's questioning whether they should try some sort of cannabis for something they're dealing with, and they're a little skeptical of trying it. Is there any advice or suggestions or anything you would tell them if they're listening right now?
I mean, if it's THC,
They're maybe a little worried. I don't know. Yeah, let's say THC.
THC, well, even CBD.
CBD.
We're going to be offering like a flower sample pack.
Okay.
So you can get just small amounts of each, and
Try it out, yeah.
one, and give yourself ample time to feel the effects and for the effects to dissipate before you try something else. Don't just try one strain, try another strain, because then it kind of jumbles all together and you won't get an accurate representation of how that strain is helping you or if it's not. But start with a small amount, and then when you find something that works, use it. And don't chase a cannabinoid. Don't try and say, I just need the highest THC. I need the highest CBD. I need the highest of this one terpene, because you don't know what strain is going to work and what strain isn't until you try it.
Exactly.
This is a good advice, like for people who don't want to get high, but they want to feel what cannabis feels like. Mm-hmm. They want to use it as medicine potentially. Hemp flower is a good place to start.
Yeah.
Get into the experience. Get a little dry herb vaporizer. Grind some up. Vaporize some hemp flower. See what it feels like. It's legal, completely legal. You don't have to have a medical card for it. Mm-hmm. And, it is a safe product to try.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, and the standards that we go by, I mean, legally, what's required is for us to verify some kind of state compliance, and that's it. And we don't even have to post it. So we take it upon ourselves to post all of our state compliance tests from all the farms that we work with, and then post all of the full panel tests that we get, so that a customer can see exactly where it was grown, what's in it, whether it's terpenes, a cannabinoid profile, the heavy metals, the pesticides, the insecticides, the moisture content, everything. They can see everything, and they know exactly where it's sourced. So we're trying to provide a consistent, reliable marketplace for customers to buy from.
That's more than you can say about all the vegetables that we buy.
Give the web addresses and how people can connect with the both of you or whatnot. I guess.
We're on Instagram and Facebook. Our IG is both Uinta without the H, Uinta Cannabis, and our other site is Utah Hemp Growers, all one word.
And that's on Instagram too.
That's on Instagram. Yeah, both of those are Instagram, and then we have a Utah Hemp Growers on Facebook.
Very cool.
Cool.
Very cool. So people, go connect, take advantage of that coupon that's in Salt Lake City. Try some of the hemp from your website.
Yeah.
And say, hey, you know what? I heard you on Utah in the Weeds, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. It was really nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, really great. Anything more you want to add? Anything more you want to talk about before we wrap this episode up? Why the mics are still on?
we got for Uinta Cannabis, we have some new strains in the works, and we just brought on our 6th farm that we're working with. So now we have, let me just name off the farms here. We have our farm, Uinta Cannabis. We have Carter Kids Construction, Hemp Ventures Utah, Honeycomb Hemp, Puff Hemp, and I'm missing one.
I'll tell you what, if you guys remember it, email us. We'll put it in the intro to the episode. So they'll be the first mention. So when they get to the end, they'll be like, oh, you didn't forget us.
Yeah. Excellent. And then we're talking with other farms, and I mean, if they're growing good enough strains and it makes it through our standards, then we'll list it. So we're growing.
Very cool.
Cool.
All right,
Congratulations, guys. Looking forward to seeing you grow.
Lazy Roots. That's the
Lazy
word.
Roots.
Lazy
There we
Roots
go.
with their pre-rolls. They're great.
Very
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. Make sure to subscribe in whatever podcast app you're listening to this in. Connect with Uinta Cannabis, Utah Hemp Growers. UtahMarijuana.org/podcast is where people can listen to the podcast. UtahMarijuana.org is where they can connect with everything else.
They can
right,
connect
Tim?
with everything else we have. And all right, everybody, stay safe out there.